Terror in the air. Continuing to follow this story, the attempted attack on Flight 253 on Christmas Day has authorities examining our current security system. Assemblyman Dov Hikind has some controversial legislation that he says he believes will make airline travel safer. He joins us live this morning from Midwood, Brooklyn. Good morning, Assemblyman. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
You are introducing, or I should say reintroducing, some terrorist profiling legislation in the wake of this terror attack on board Flight 253. Tell us exactly what this legislation would be.
Well, the idea is to use ethnicity along with many other factors in dealing with the war on terrorism. This is only one single item that law enforcement can use. The idea is we should not restrict law enforcement from doing their job. There is a war on terror. And the fact is that since September 11th, if you look at those who have been convicted of acts of terrorism, if you look at all the individuals that are facing trial, it so happens, the reality is that they are of Middle Eastern or Southeast Asian background, Muslim young men. That is the reality. Now, I'm not saying that you should look at every single person who fits this profile and go after them. That's not what I'm saying. But we should not tie the hands of law enforcement to go after people who fit the terrorist profile. It just makes common sense. You know, I'm against the concept of profiling, but we're involved in a war on terror. We're involved with those who want to murder Americans, thousands of Americans who want to do horrible things to our country, and we need to use the kind of tools that we would ordinarily not use.
And now this, and as you mentioned, Assemblyman, this is kind of goes against your own beliefs in racial profiling.
Right.
And certainly racial profiling, Assemblyman, conjures up a lot of negative terms and negative beliefs by a lot of people. So we are kind of seeing a shift then from political correctness. And in your sense, what you're saying is we have to shift away from political correctness because we have to focus on national security.
That's exactly the point. There are exceptional situations where you have to use exceptional means. We have the Patriot Act in this country, and many people criticize that because it interfered with the rights of individuals. But after September 11th, the world changed. After this horrible situation where someone was going to bring down a plane only a couple of days ago, we need to use the kind of tactics that we would ordinarily not use. And I think it is very critical that we do that and not be embarrassed by it. By the way, it shouldn't be controversial. It should be something that everybody accepts.
However, not everyone is accepting it. With that, we want you to listen to something quickly for us, if you can, Assemblyman. This is a sound from Hussein Rashid. He is a professor at Hofstra University and a member of the Muslim Advocacy Group. Take a listen to what he said.
I think Assemblyman Hikind's statement is a bit misguided. He wants to profile Muslims of South Asian and Arab origin, yet we know that this particular attempted bomber was from Nigeria, so he's neither Arab nor South Asian. So it seems to be unclear to me what Assemblyman Hikind wants. Does he want to just racially profile brown people and not really Muslims, or is it that he wants to profile Muslims? And then how do you decide who's a Muslim?
All right, Assemblyman.
By the way, yeah, you know, my position is not that we profile one group. Hey, we can go after Norwegians or Scandinavians. We can go after all kinds of people. No one is saying the authorities should not do that. We can go, you know, after 80-year-old men and women getting on a plane. But the reality is that you look at the profile of what terrorists have looked like, where they come from, and so on, and it just makes sense to use that along with other things. We're not saying only look at one group, but we're saying let's go with the odds. It makes sense. We do it in baseball, by the way. We do it in many other areas. It surely makes sense to do it if the possibility is there to save the lives of innocent people all over the world.
All righty, Assemblyman Dov Hikind, that's all the time we have for you this morning. Thank you very much, of course. We'll certainly continue to follow this story. We do appreciate it. Assemblyman Dov Hikind talking to us from Brooklyn.
All right, it's 8:21. Stay with us. Good day. We'll be back in just a moment.
Well, Brooklyn Assemblyman Dov Hikind is calling for terrorist profiling legislation. Not everyone, however, agrees with this controversial proposal. Fox 5's Ty Hernandez is live in Midwood, Brooklyn, with both sides of this issue. Good morning, Ty.
Good morning, Reed. Well, given that Friday's terror scare could have been an all-out tragedy, Dov Hikind is saying that it should be okay for lawmakers to racially profile based on ethnic appearance and other outward signs like wearing heavy clothing in warm weather, for example. Hikind insists that his critics are simply being politically correct and not practical.
I'm against the concept of profiling, but we're involved in a war on terror. We're involved with those who want to murder Americans, thousands of Americans who want to do horrible things to our country, and we need to use the kind of tools that we would ordinarily not use.
Randomly seizing people on the streets just because they look different is not the way to make America safe, and it's not a way to live up to our national ideals.
Now, as you heard, those opposed to Hikind's bill say that Muslims hail from countries all over the world, not just the Middle East, and it is a religion, not an ethnic identity. They say racial profiling could lead to a dangerous backlash. However, Hikind says he still plans to go forward and reintroduce that bill when the Assembly reassembles in January. Reed and Lisa, back to you.